In a bid to force government to act and halt the menace of current massive theft of the country's crude oil and destruction of oil assets, oil workers in Nigeria yesterday declared that they will begin nationwide rallies today in protest, coming under the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Workers Association of Nigeria, PENGASAN. The oil workers noted that having engaged the leadership of security agencies, the regulatory body, as well as captains of industry to find ways of curbing the menace without appreciable result, it has become necessary to declare an emergency. National President of PENGASAN, Mr. Festus Osifo, who addressed journalists in Abuja, stated that since engaging within the four walls of offices was not giving desired outcomes, the union will now rework its strategy. Wow, yet another one.
I mean, we've talked yesterday and really ad nauseum about the ASU strike, and it just makes you think, with regards to unions in Nigeria, what are the options? I was saying this yesterday. You tend to only have really two options if you're disgruntled as a union. You take legal action or you strike. Even though strikes are massively inconvenient for, the generality of the Nigerian public, when you see issues like this being raised, these are not petty issues. And really, what are the alternatives? As inconvenient as it is, because we do have this issue with oil theft. We have this issue with oil theft that has been acknowledged by the federal government. They've promised to tackle it, have not done so. We're not meeting at OPEC quarters. We are all being affected by this lapse, massive lapse, one way or another. But some people are being affected directly. They are losing their jobs. Are they really supposed to sit on their hands at this point? So for me, I tend to have sympathy when unions decide to go on strike. I don't think it's anybody's idea of a good time. I don't think it's anybody's idea of a little frolic or a party. No, they're trying to address and draw attention to a very serious issue. And I hope this does the magic and actually creates results. It's not enough for the federal government to acknowledge the problem. The problem must be resolved.
Dr. Patti?
Well, the Petroleum, Oil and Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASAN, played a very major role in Nigerian democracy following the annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential election. So it's a very powerful force, that organization. At that time, it was led by Chief Frank Kokori. So PENGASAN now saying we are a very important part of this equation of making Nigeria, not the unmaking of Nigeria. They have history behind them. This time around, the leader is a gentleman called Festus Osifo, who has been speaking up. A number of points that Festus Osifo made that I think we can interrogate. One, he says that the theme of their protest is chasing oil thieves and vandals out of business. That's their theme. And today they say they are going to go on nationwide rallies in Abuja, in Warri, in Kaduna, in Lagos. And that is their attempt to chase out oil thieves and vandals out of business. If it doesn't work, if the rallies do not work, if the rallies do not make any difference, after 2 or 3 months, they will take a review and they will decide to shut down production completely. What is their rationale? Number one, their rationale is that, look, the crisis of oil theft in the oil and gas sector affects their staff. Major oil companies have had to shut down. Shell, Adax, ExxonMobil, they listed them. And that because of this, it affects their staff. Their staff cannot work. Two, they say every measure that has been introduced, a rush of measures by the Nigerian government, those measures do not appear to be working. These measures include, most recently, the award of a 4 billion naira per month, oil and gas pipeline infrastructure surveillance by government Ekpemukpolo, popularly known as General Tumpolo. Two, they say increase in security surveillance in the Niger Delta has not also solved any problem. Rather, the reality is that the oil companies have had to stop production. The reality is that Nigeria cannot even meet the quota of 1.8 million barrels that it is given per month. Nigeria barely does 1 million barrels per month. Even NNPC has had to shut down its pipelines. And the quoted engineer Melekari, the GMD of the NNPC Limited, has having put this on the table to say that Nigeria consistently loses 700,000 barrels per day. Okay, 700,000 barrels per day, that's a lot in terms of revenue. The other concern is that at a time that the price of Brent crude is going up internationally, at a point it exceeded $100 dollars per barrel. Nigeria that is supposed to benefit from it, Nigeria that is supposed to be talking about, oil boom, is losing because of crude oil theft and pipeline vandalism. And they are now saying, this is their own revelation, that the problem is the way it is because security persons, soldiers, whether of the Navy extraction or of the Army extraction, sent to the Niger Delta to ensure security in the Gulf of Guinea, in the Bight of Benin, that they are part of the problem. That these soldiers are very corrupt. They are the ones who are the source of the problem. And that unless government does something about that, Pengassan will further frustrate the Nigerian government. Because when they complain, they say they have made efforts internally. All their efforts internally to talk to the service chiefs, they claim has not worked. Okay, fine. These are their grievances. What do we take from all of this? The National Security Advisor, before now, spoke about a whole of society, a whole of nation, a whole of community approach to this. So you cannot question the bona fide of these oil and gas workers in this regard, saying that we're the operatives in this area, and we see that Nigeria is being sabotaged, and that the people right at the center of it is a cartel. They have formed a cartel, and that cartel, Nigeria's security agencies are in the lead of it. So what they have done, therefore, is to respond to the fact that this is a collective responsibility. All of us are in it, and they are very strategic stakeholders. And also, secondly, to remind everyone that the Nigerian government claiming that it's addressing the problem, the worst is over, they are telling us that the worst is not over. Finally, there was a point made by the Pengassan chief, Festus Osifo, which I'd like to underline. He said, look, Nigeria is spending money, right? But we are borrowing money also. He said, we are borrowing money because our strategic sector is unproductive. It's been sabotaged by a cartel. Some other analysts will use the word by the mafia. He went for that and said, okay, with an NPC not remitting funds to the federation account, where is the money coming from? And he expressed the opinion that the money that the Nigerian government is spending, apart from coming from borrowing, is coming from ways and means. That Nigeria is just printing money. Who is going to bear the cost of this reckless ways and means? Just let us assume that is right. The subsidy in the proposed 2023 budget is 6.4 trillion dollars. Or is it naira? Naira. So who is going to be responsible for that? And if ways and means is already in the trillion range, then it means that before the 2023 general elections, all of us have nothing to look forward to, because the next government is coming to preside over chaos, if indeed the details contained in his own protestations are true as alleged.
I mean, great point you raised, Dr. Batian Tundu. The problem with Nigeria is that we know the problem, there is a solution, but because of our own personal interest, we never solve the problem. So what do? The first thing we do about the problem is we blame those talking about the problem. So once you talk about the problem in Nigeria, you become an enemy of state. You are blamed. As passions are casted at you, they push back and say, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Can I give you an example? A top security official said that the amount being touted as stolen is exaggerated. We all heard it. the interview, a chief of one of the parastatals of the military. So the question we should ask him is...
No, call him out. The chief of Esther.
The chief of...
Esther.
Okay.
Yeah.
You see, so the question we should ask is the crude oil just disappearing like that in the pipeline? Just say, oh, crude oil, me, I disappear. Even when we saw a super tanker that the Equatorial Guinean Authority have to flank us and say, okay, come and take your super tanker, it was from the Nigerian High Sea. What did we hear afterwards? Said it was empty. So the super tanker just strolled into the Nigerian waters to play and to have a good time and ride back out. That super tanker that they said can carry crude worth over $300 million. Till date, we've not heard anything. Also, we heard the argument of the fact that, oh, the creeks are too choked up. It will take you a lot of trips to carry oil out. Then why are we not meeting our OPEC quota? One thing my dad of blessed memory always say is that there's a method to every madness. There's a method to every madness. At least during Yar'Adua's time, we saw the method to the madness. Once, what is it called, was given, amnesty, we returned to producing crude oil. So the method to that madness that then was that there was vandalization of pipelines, and once the problem was solved, our proceeds increased. But this one, there's a method that defies the madness. We are not meeting OPEC quota. The rebuttal is the fact that, it is exaggerated. So if it's exaggerated what is being stolen, then why are we not meeting OPEC quota? And like he also made mention of the point that Mr. Osifo said, that, hey, how are we then making the money we are spending? We must be printing. And you asked a very valid question, that who is suffering? We are already suffering it. We are already suffering a very decadent monetary policy. We are suffering it in inflation. So for every more money that is printed into circulation of the economy, we are paying for it in inflation. Price of products are rising and things like that. We know all of the problems. We know the solution. But when are we going to have that will to do what is right? You see, the problem that had bedeviled every leadership in this country since independence is the will to do what is right. If we want to stop crude oil theft in this country, we can stop it. But the question is, do we have the will to do what is right and stand firm and say this is the solution? Are we saying that whoever is doing this, the cartels and the mafia, are bigger than the government? Oh, let me also tell you how we've also passed the buck. The next thing, we blame the artisanal miners, the artisanal refinery owners. They're the ones taking over 700,000 barrels every day. That's not making us meet our quota. When we are ready, we'll solve this problem. I don't think we're ready now. But I don't blame Pengasi for saying they want to go on a rally. I just hope this rally does not lead to strike, because we can't afford strike at this point. Please, let cool heads prevail. Ahead of Thursday's crucial meeting of the top organs of People's Democratic Party's presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar has promised to work with those who contested the party's primary against him, saying that all have various roles to play in the PDP's quest for victory at the polls. Our rights correspondent Amaka here tells us more.
With 5 months to the presidential election, Nigeria's main opposition, the People's Democratic Party, is still in disarray, mostly due to the fallout from its presidential primaries. The National Caucus, Board of Trustees, and even the National Executive Committee meetings had to be postponed severally, and the party is yet to inaugurate its campaign council. Ahead of the meeting of its party's top organs on Thursday, Atiku Abubakar has been meeting with some presidential aspirants of the party to thank them for their sportsmanship, while promising to work with them for the party to emerge victorious at the 2023 polls.
I want to commend you for your maturity and sense of nationalism, and also your sense of unity for our great party. Because each and every one of you would have tried to raise a lot of dust after the convention, but you decided to accept the outcome of the convention and ensure that there is unity so that our party can succeed. So I want to commend your leadership for that. Let me tell you that I am ever ready to work with you, to listen to you, in fact, to be partners in this process, first of all, of campaigning, and I believe after we win in governance, in making sure that we rescue our country.
17 aspirants purchased the expression of interest and nomination forms, with 2 screened out of the contest. Only 5 out of the 15 who contested met with the presidential candidate. Notably absent is the runner-up and governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike, who has been having a running battle with the candidate and the PDP leadership. Those who attended the meeting are Dele Momodu, Mohammed Hayatuddin, Tari Oliver, Kalu Chikwendu and Charles Ugu. They are pledging their support to the party and its flag bearer.
We've met, we've discussed, and we believe that the aspirants should come together urgently to make sure that we offer our individual and collective support to this campaign. PDP, we believe, has the best chance of winning the 2023 presidential election.
Well, the crisis in the People's Democratic Party, PDP, getting deeper, and the calls for the resignation of the national chairman, Iyorchia, to step aside getting louder. The presidential candidate of the party today says it will take all hands to be on deck for the party to wrestle power from the APC, and he is asking for support from everyone to ensure that the party emerges victorious in the 2023 general elections.
All right, meanwhile, 17 governorship candidates of the People's Democratic Party have been meeting with the Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike, in Port Harcourt as part of their contribution to the reconciliation move initiated by the party's leadership to end the internal crisis in the main opposition. They claim that the issues in the party have now been resolved. The PDP Go-Back Candidates Forum was led by party's governorship candidates in Kaduna, Isa Ashiru. Many of the governorship hopefuls were worried about their chances of winning the 2023 polls in their states if the issues at the national levels are not resolved swiftly. The meeting comes ahead of the party's INEC meeting scheduled for Thursday.
So we met and discussed issues that borders on the situation within the party. An internal matter is not something for you to get details into, but we are through. We have discussed with the presidential candidate. We are here with our brother and friend, and issues that borders on what has happened has been sorted out. The issue has been resolved as far as I'm concerned, because we have heard from both sides. And we're going to meet with the National Working Committee to take a decision.
All right, let's talk about.
Yes, that's, I think, an important move that the PDP governorship candidates made by going to visit Governor Wike. And it's an important visual representation for him about exactly what is at stake. He's repeatedly expressed his pique, where the presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar and the national chairman Iyorchia Ayu are concerned. But it's a reminder, I imagine, about the down ballot tickets, the governorship aspirants, National Assembly, and what have you, and that he has the political fortunes of those 18 people and many others that he's toying with, because he's, taken umbrage the way he has in such a public, theatrical fashion. Well, according to those 18 aspirants that went to visit him, they've done the magic and it's worked and it's all going to be resolved, and he has agreed a ceasefire. That remains to be seen, because he was, as Amaka said in her great report, conspicuously absent at that meeting of PDP presidential aspirants. But he's not the only one who was. Former Senate President and Governor Bukola Saraki was absent. So was former SGF and Senate President Pius Anyim. But obviously people are going to really make a lot of hay about the fact that Governor Wike was absent. So it was going to look more like a boycott. So if at all there's going to be a ceasefire, there needs to be some kind of proof of that. We need to see the optics of the party uniting, because I just don't understand. Somebody like Basharun Dede Momodu, who was in Amaka's report there, has been really doing his best to broker peace. I just don't understand how an opposition political party thinks they can take on an incumbent party, the ruling party, in this state of disarray. They're going to have to unify. It's simply not going to happen.
Dr. Bati?
Okay, all of this needs to be put in context. First point is that there is no doubt that the PDP is a troubled party. So many issues to be resolved. And you recall that the presidential candidate of the party, Atiku Abubakar, met in the UK, in London, with the aggrieved governor of Rivers State, Nyesom Wike. And he said, give me 2 weeks, within which we'll try to see how we can resolve this. And within that intervening period, there have been certain developments. One, Senator Yochi Ayu, the chairman of the party, embattled, if you like, that adjective, decided to call a meeting of the National Working Committee and some other key members of the party, in which he made it clear that it was not going anywhere. Yesterday, there was also another meeting of the National Working Committee, in which Senator Yochi Ayu engaged principally members of the NWC. Yesterday, there was this visit by former presidential aspirants to the presidential candidate, Atiku. What is the meaning? Simply to solidarize with him. The only problem with that meeting is that the key critical persons were absent. So that meeting resonates more in terms of the absence of certain persons rather than the presence of certain persons. Wike was not there. Fayose was not there. Senator Bukola Saraki was not there. Senator Bala Mohammed was not there. Okay? But you had Momodu, you had Tari Oliver, you had, Muhammad Ayatollah and all of that. So it could have been, the optics could have been different, because the whole idea is probably optics. It could have been different if certain other key persons were present at our meeting. And then this week, we were told that 17 governorship candidates met with Governor Wike in his country home in Obio Akpo local government area of Rivers State. But that meeting was fruitless. Nothing came out of it, because we were told that they begged him to forgive and forget and to support Atiku and support Governor Okowa and support even Senator Ayu and allow peace to reign. And his reported response was that it was beyond them, that they are not in a position to resolve the matter, that the matter can only be resolved by the National Executive Council meeting. So that's why I talk about context. Because today, Thursday, the National Executive Council of the party is going to meet. And all of these issues, the Ayu issue, the Wike issue, and also the crisis within the party in various chapters, including Osun, including Kano, including Ogun, including some other parts of the country, will be on the table. So, will the party be able to resolve the matter today? That remains to be seen. Secondly, when Wike says that the matter can only be resolved by the National Executive Council, will he himself, make himself or his representatives available to articulate what his real grievances are? And the question that may well come out at the end of the day, did former Vice President Atiku Abubakar make any promises to Nyesom Wike? Has there been a breach of trust within the party at various levels? So all of this we'll get to know, depending on how the meeting of the National Executive Council of the party today pans out. However, our residual concern, we cannot overstate it, we cannot repeat it, is that, look, can these political parties, whether it's the APC or the PDP or the Labour Party, just move beyond all this, what I once described as minutiae and begin to focus on the key issues. Pengassan is going on strike. Which of the political parties is now talking about, okay, Pengassan wants to do rallies. Don't let it translate into a strike. Nobody is saying anything about that. It's about what 17 governorship candidates and Wike discuss and what PDP will discuss at their neck. No, can we begin to focus on what concerns ordinary Nigerians like us?
Sad reality. I know there's no time, but I just have to say this. All of this scene in the PDP reminds me of the Titanic. The question is, how close is this ship to the iceberg? Will it hit the iceberg? Will it not? Time will tell. That's all on News Headlines.